Hello, good afternoon and welcome to Zandvoort in Holland for race 3 in the FIA World Touring Car Championship 2007. Yesterday's stiff northerly wind has been replaced by one from the southwest blowing up the front straight. It's no longer a headwind, it's a tailwind, but it's going to make very entertaining viewing. It is 4.3 kilometre Zandvoort circuit, last used for an international FIA race back in 1985. Then it was the Dutch Grand Prix when Niki Lauda beat teammate Alain Prost in a McLaren 1-2. So for the first time in over 20 years, an international FIA World Championship event comes to Zandvoort. David, in the meanwhile, the track has been closed, rebuilt and open for quite some while as an international motorsport venue, and it is one of the great challenging drivers' tracks.
It's a very popular track in actual fact with all the races, because there are some other big races here, not an FIA championship race but certainly international races here at Zandvoort. The DTM comes here, the Marlborough Masters, the Formula 3 race, which is probably the most famous race that's been here in the last few years, and that's where all the F3 guys from around Europe come and race one major race, and that's here at Zandvoort. But Zandvoort's been turned around this weekend. Proper FIA championship, we just said, Martin, and these are the cars we're looking at. World touring cars here for the first time. Struggling to get a little bit used to the circuit because it's right next door to the seaside, because it's set in the sand dunes. There's the sand dunes, that was very lucky there, came up there, and a lot of sand on the circuit to cope with.
So it's the second round of the championship. Let's see where we've been since Brazil. Well, the World Championship opened in 2007 at Curitiba in Brazil. It was a dramatic and exciting race weekend. And from Brazil, we left with 3 joint World Championship leaders. Well, on the up, Jörg Müller, BMW Germany driver Jörg, took pole and victory in race 1. He was the dominant force in Curitiba, 16 points from the 2 races. He was in the top 3 both times out, along with his BMW teammates.
Important thing. I mean, we're going to get a lot of weight for the next race, and it's going to be a lot more difficult.
Joint championship leader is his new teammate, the Brazilian Augusto Farfus Jr., defected from Alfa Romeo at the end of last year, made a perfect start. He too won in race 2.
We had a very nice start. Now it's time to think on the championship, to look forward for Zandvoort. It will be a very tough championship. I mean, me, Andy and Jörg, we are leading the championship with the same points.
Indeed, our double reigning world champion Andy Prio is the 3-way tie in this championship lead. He didn't win either of the races, but his average scores made him a joint championship leader as well. 2 second place finishes. Tough time though for Alain Menu and Olivier Tielemans. The Chevrolet drivers had a damaging weekend, and so did new Alpha boy Tielemans. Larini, Menu and Huff all suffering. They brought the 2006 cars to Brazil, and it's probably just as well. They really didn't come away in much of a raceable form. Ivan Muller had a tough time, as did all the SEAT drivers, and indeed SEAT and Alfa Romeo have been given, along with Chevrolet, a weight break compared to the BMWs, because BMW dominated things so much in Brazil. And partly as a result of a little bit of a beneficial weight break, but David, probably much more as a result of introducing their 2007 car. Chevrolet very much the form team. 2 SEAT team bosses there, Jaime Puig on the right with the factory team, and Paul Riswiger on the left with the GR Asia team.
Paul Ridgway
with the GR Asia team. Both now sitting behind SEAT on the grid, and behind Chevrolet on the grid rather, with their SEATs, and wondering perhaps where all the pace has gone to.
I think, yes, SEAT are really sort of scratching their heads, because they expect it to be very quick here. It's a very fast flowing circuit, and that's where their car is good at. They know the BMW is very good on the short, sharper circuits, but they were expected to be much further up, and I think a little bit disappointed. Certainly Paul was disappointed with Tom Cornell's, because he had some problems yesterday, but certainly picked up today and going much quicker.
Well, we're expecting to show you a little bit of tape footage. Here we are, Thiago Monteiro on the grid, the best of the SEAT qualifiers. Now, he lines up on row 3. He was 5th quickest despite not having driven one of these cars before. He is, of course, a Formula 1 refugee. So Portuguese star Thiago Monteiro was on the pit wall as a spectator in Brazil, but after a lot of testing in the interim, he is ready to make his race start, and the 30-year-old from Portugal has blown away his more established touring car savvy teammates. A remarkable performance considering it's his first front-wheel drive racing car and his first time with a roof on. He says, what I've learned most in the past 2 years in Formula 1 is to be aggressive with my driving, and of course the speed builds up your reflexes and huge amount of technical work that you have to get through. Well, it's going to be a very different view through a windscreen for the first time in the World Touring Car Championship, but he's certainly providing the pace this weekend. He is the SEAT team's front runner. And there can't be too many people who would have expected that. Of course, he said there's an awful lot of problems facing us. It's a completely different world for me. The cars are different, the aerodynamics are different, the power and the delivery is different, but the philosophy of driving is the most different thing of all. And of course, in Formula 1, you daren't touch wheels. In touring cars, it's pretty much taken as a matter of course. And there are many ex-single-seater drivers, Alex Zanardi, Gabriele Tarquini, his own teammate, for instance, who can offer plenty of advice. Tarquini says, I've told him just to be careful in the races. Qualifying, it's easy to be quick. In the races, you've got to watch what's going on behind you before every corner. There's always somebody looking to take advantage, maybe push, bump you. My advice to him, be careful. The kind of problems you don't have to worry about in Formula 1. But Monteiro certainly has the pace. Whether he can transmit that with savvy racecraft into results or not remains to be seen. And David, you've got to say that the other SEAT drivers, Tarquini included, with years, decades of touring car experience, must be looking at Monteiro and going, oh boy, is this the young new guard we've got to worry about now?
I think they'll be a little bit worried because, you know, they're the established drivers, and they're all of a sudden they're being shown up by the new guy, and that's what happens. Constantly motorsport changes, constantly new people come along, new people are younger, they're faster, and life changes for everyone. And I think people like Gabriele Tarquini will be thinking, you know, I need to pull my socks up here if I've got to be quick against these guys.
And apart from Tarquini, he has more weight than any other SEAT driver because he's got the new boys 10 kilo bonus, which everybody else lost after the first race of the weekend. So he's actually the second heaviest SEAT, apart from Coronel, who's got 15 kilos on. Coronel, well, yesterday he had the Dutch Prime Minister and the entire Dutch media in his garage, made it very hard to focus on qualifying, he said. But this morning, third fastest in the warm-up, so he is certainly hoping for good things from 15th on the grid.
Zandvoort is heel historisch natuurlijk.
Well, Tom, talking about Zandvoort, says it's a really special track for us. Of course, we had Formula 1 here in the past, so Zandvoort is a unique track. It's on the beach almost, in the dunes, and everybody knows that aspect of it. He said there are two main points on the track. Tarzan, of course, is the huge first corner after the long straight, very famous overtaking place, very wide, a lot of room, you can really attack in touring cars. And the second one, the Schlievelach, it's a very thrilling and bumpy area at the top of the track before you plunge downhill on the new section of circuit. Or the old Grand Prix track that Prost's, Senna, Laudas of this world will have known that James Hunt claimed his first Formula 1 win in, of course, for Hesketh. That's now part of a major holiday development here. It's a big holiday centre. It's just 10 kilometres out of one of Holland's major cities, only 25 k's from Schiphol Airport, and of course very accessible as well by ferry. And in fact, many British drivers from club level and up come racing here quite frequently in Holland, because it's you know, if you're going to drive to Brands Hatch, it's only another couple of hours and you're in Zandvoort, and you don't often get to race on the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit. If you've done it a few times, then why not come over to Holland? They're always very welcoming, and generally speak as good English as you'll find in Kent as well. Moving right along, here is Jordi Genet, the best of what we would see as the established SEAT drivers. He's 7th on the grid, David, and it's not often you see Genet as the fastest of the SEATs either. Alongside him, Felix Portiero, 6th place. Now, behind our poles sitting in front row filling Chevrolet Lachettes, 3 of the next 4 cars are BMWs, and in a standing start you would expect to see the BMWs all over the Chevrolets into the first corner. But with this rolling start format for race 1, Chevrolet really have got a good chance here of producing, well, their first win of the season, but potentially the team's first ever 1-2 FIA World Championship result, which would be a huge boost for their championship chances. Thiago Monteiro, row 2 of the grid, row 3 of the grid rather, 5th fastest qualifying, as we mentioned earlier, the best of the Seat factory drivers. But another interesting story from qualifying, this man, Luca Rangoni, top independent. We're sort of spoiled by having seen Tom Coronel qualifying in top 6 positions in his independent Seat from the GR Asia Seat Holland team last year. But Luca Rangoni and Pro Team, this is certainly elevated beyond their normal part on the grid. But a fantastic job by Rangoni in the top independent BMW. It is an E90 spec car. That's the current flame surfacing Chris Bangle designed BMWs, the E90, which in race terms is his 320 SI, exactly the same as Augusto Farfus has got. But still, it's a privateer team. I mean, that's a stunning job by them to get onto the second row of the grid with Rangoni. But again, you know, there's so many stories from qualifying, because you've got Larini here, second on the grid, a Menu on pole for Chevrolet. It's an all-Chevy front row, an enormous result for them and for the championship.
It's such a big change, because you've got the 2 Chevrolets on the front row and you've got the privateer in the second row. That is the real big stories of qualifying. But this was what happened at the last race meeting. Coming together, Ivan Muller and Nicola Larini. Now, because of this, the stewards have had a meeting at Zandvoort, and they have decided that both drivers were to blame, so therefore both drivers have a suspended penalty, a 10-place grid penalty, suspended for 2 meetings, 4 races. So if either of them get into trouble during either of the next 4 races, 2 here at Zandvoort and the next 2
in Valencia,
yeah. Then they will end up with a 10-place penalty on the grid.
And it doesn't have to be with each other as well, it can be with anybody else. And the reason both were deemed responsible is that Larini was deemed to have cut across on Ivan Muller, and Ivan Muller, I mean, sure, I say it was a racing accident. They were both going for the apex, and you know, it was 5 cars wide. What are you going to do? You've got to let these guys race. Now, at the back of the grid, interestingly, we saw some new BMWs. Not new, they're the old 320i, the E46, the last Shape 3 Series, but from a new team, the Russian Bear Motorsport team. They're here in Zandvoort. We believe, they say, they hope they're going to be in Valencia as well, but not a full championship attack from them. Looking down the grid, world champion Andy Priaulx in 8th place, one of our 3 championship leaders. Don't forget Augusto Farfus is 3rd, but the other one, Jörg Muller, you don't even see him on that page. He's 11th on the grid. So Jörg Muller and Andy Priaulx with a lot of work to do if they want to leave here and go to Valencia as joint series leaders. Zandvoort in Holland, rounds 3 and 4 of the FIA World Touring Car Championship live on Eurosport. Welcome to the Dutch seaside resort of Zandvoort, which is also welcoming back FIA World Championship racing for the first time since the Dutch Grand Prix in 1985. 22 long years without a World Championship race here. The circuit in the interim has been closed, rebuilt and reopened for international racing now for many years. And for the first time in its history, the World Touring Car Championship comes to Zandvoort. This late replacement on the calendar for the cancelled Puebla race in Mexico. David Leslie sitting alongside me here as the cars come round towards the rolling start for the first race. A great chance for a huge Dutch crowd to see these cars for the first time at close quarters.
It's going to be fantastic for them. World Touring cars have never been here before, as you said, and it's a great spectacle to see. Lots of cars on the grid, 25 cars on the grid. That's the expectant Chevrolet team boss, Eric Neve there, looking to see what's going on. He wants to know where his cars are. He knows where 2 of them are. They're on the front row, but he'll be watching obviously where Rob Huff is. But here's the lead car coming out. He will pull off into the pits, and there he goes. Now watch the red light, green already. Very quick
early
start.
Coming out to the right-hand side, Thiago Monteiro up against the pit wall. The Seat driver on the left-hand side. Great start as well from the other Seat. The white and black car is Roberto Colciago. We're looking back from Monteiro. He's got ahead of Farfus. Farfus started third on the grid. He's down to fifth, maybe sixth. He just hangs on over the curbs, but he's got the other car on the outside of Colciago with Tom Coronel from 15th on the grid, and right in front of him, Jörg Muller. Luca Rangoni, the top independent, is third. One of the BMs is off. Is that Muller or is that Prio? It is Portiero, Felix Portiero. So he's got off. He dropped down from 6th on the grid, got swamped away from the start. He was not ready for such a quick change of the lights. But Alain Menu and Nicola Larini for Chevrolet romping away, David, exactly what they wanted as we're thick in it. This is Jörg Muller chasing Andy Prio, the two championship leaders, and Ivan Muller. Well, it's been a rotten race weekend for him. 16th on the grid, out on lap 1. Now let's hope that was not of his own making, or he'll be in for a really tough time in race 2. But the team now have 12 laps to try and get that sorted out. You have to say probably his own making, because it's the front that's damaged, so it looks as though he'll have run into somebody, so that will be a problem for him if his stewards decide so. But one of the big gains is Colciago with that black and white Seat. Look at it. Right up there in, I think it's 4th or 5th place he is. Yeah, so now not just Thiago Monteiro, the new boy, but Colciago, another. That's Seat Italy, ahead of all 3 factory Seat Spain entries. Rob Huff is right behind Gabriele Tarquini, while Muller is done. I think it's going to, let's have a look if we can see where in the middle of this melee. Bang! That's Rob Huff. Got knocked up in the air by Prio, and Muller was on the inside. Oh no, that's Muller and
D'Asti, is it?
Yeah, Stefano D'Asti in the Vickers Sport BMW, and that's Portiero was just dropping like a stone right through the pack there, and that's probably what caused all of that. Is Felix Portiero going so slowly? Here comes Huff, looking down the inside of Tarquini. He's along, push.
He's in the inside.
Yes, he's pushed him wide.
The wrong side for the next corner. That's the biggest problem.
Well, through Tarzan now, little clink up to Gerlach, and that's the right-hander that completes that move. There's just a tiny little left-hand kink, then down to the Hunsrück, diving down another slightly banked corner as they climb out over the dunes again. And a great start from the Chevrolets. Menu from Larini by a second at the end of lap 1. Luca Rangoni third, top independent in his BMW. Then Thiago Monteiro. Augusto Farfus was 5th, but being passed by Roberto Colciago on lap 1. So Colciago up to 5th. Farfus is the best place to the championship leaders. He's got back in front of Colciago, in fact, on the straight. We didn't see that, but there is Andy Prio pushing hard. Jörg Muller, Tom Coronel right behind, rather. And so, in fact, that's not Prio. Was that Prio? Yes, I think it was. Yeah, it was Prio going by James Thompson. And Coronel's held up behind Tomo. And that looks like Jörg Muller it is behind the next BMW. He's behind Coronel.
And both those cars have got cameras, both Tom Coronel and Jörg Muller. Look at this, down the inside of Genet goes Colciago.
Colciago holding on there into the Audi S's because Genet was coming from behind him. Farfus has escaped, and he is all over the back of Thiago Monteiro. So Colciago 7th, Rob Huff down in 9th place there between the two Seats. That's Genet and Tarquini in that order, those first 2 factory Seats. And looking back again from Thiago Monteiro, and Augusto Farfus is getting no closer. But how long will the front-wheel drive tyres last? It's a very abrasive circuit. Menu reckoned maybe 6, maybe 8 laps if they really don't have to push too hard before the front drive tyres go right off. Here comes Prio. And there is Muller, finally got into the pits. In fact, it was Zanardi going by Emmett O'Brien as what's left of the front end of that car comes in. They got 10 laps of hard work there, David Leslie.
They've got to put that car back together. They need to use this time while the race is on, because the rest of the time between the 2 races is parc fermé condition. So they've got to really work hard to put it back together, get him out for the second race, and try and have some sort of result from this weekend at Zandvoort.
Don't forget live timing on your computer from the FIA-WTCC.com website. You can follow it in real time, and that is Olivier Tielemans being towed away down the side of the circuit. It's not, in fact, that is Miguel Freitas in the 3rd of the Alfa Romeos, the racing for Belgium cars. We watch Farfus getting closer and closer. The heavy braking areas and the tight corners will certainly helped the BMW here, but he's all over Montero now, and I think that was a mistake from the Portuguese. But the Seat looks to be pretty quick off the corner here, out of the Hunsrück and up through the Rob Slotemacher box over the top of the hill, down into Schivlach. Farfus is getting closer and staying closer as well, and this in fact is the return loop down the circuit. This is the Audi S, and heading back behind the pits to the final two corners. So good little battles going on here, and Colciago there, the white and black car, staying away from the factory Seat of Genet, with Rob Huff and Tarquini behind him, and then tucked up behind them is Andy Prio. Prio at the moment in 10th, so at the moment Huff's Chevrolet there, if nothing would to change in the remaining 8 laps, would be on pole for race 2, so it'll be Chevrolet on pole for both races. But you know, that's, if nothing changes in the next 8 laps, I will be absolutely astonished. Coronel trying to come up the order still, but he's stuck in 12th.
He's behind James Thompson.
Yeah, he's got Thompson behind him. Jörg Müller stuck behind in 13th place behind this battle. Well, here is the long queue behind the lead Chevrolets, and Luca Rangoni still third. Presumably can't believe his luck, looking in the mirrors and seeing the battle between Montero in 4th place and Farfus in 5th. That's just helping Rangoni. Not only is he comfortably in the lead of the Independence Trophy, although Colciago is an Independent as well, 3 cars behind him in 6th, but Colciago has just come off the grid from 10th place. I mean, an electrifying start.
He's been a superb start. Then he dropped back a few places, and that's him now sort of settled into 6th place, but he was up to 4th on the first lap, but he's just not quite keeping up with Augusto Farfus there with the BMW, the Brazilian flag, and you can see looking back from Montero's car, and this is for 4th and 5th. This is where the real battle is. The 3rd place, Luca Rangoni, I'm sure he can't believe his luck. He's sitting there just driving away really nicely. The front wheel drive guys are all really worried about the BMWs, because they know towards the end of this race it's a really difficult circuit, lots of big high-speed corners that really will take a toll on the tyres, and they know they need to do well at the beginning of the race because they know they're going to be really under pressure at the end, and that's what the Chevrolets were frightened of. But I have to say, the 2 guys at the front, Menu Larini, are stretching themselves away slowly from the rest, and the rest is starting with a privateer, Rangoni.
Fastest man on the circuit last lap, Andy Prio, the only man in the 148s, 148.98. Prio is in 10th place, picking up a toe off Tarquini there, down the straight obviously, but fastest of the race so far, still Alain Menu, 148.98, and there is Prio, not only picking up the toe off Tarquini, but going through. Somebody else skating into Zandvoort, you could hear from the camera microphone, locked up behind, so what battle would that have been? That'll be Thompson, Coronel and Muller directly behind them, but Prio now moves up ahead of Tarquini. Prio is 9th, Rob Huff in 8th place, and a point is his next target, and it looks like Tarquini is just going to have to hang on here. Maybe the, what is it now, 10 kilos basic weight difference between Seat Chevrolet, Alfa Romeo and BMW is not quite enough for Seat. There's only 10 kilos difference between a BMW and a Seat at the moment. The Seat is 10 kilos lighter. There's an extra bonus if you are in a Chevrolet or an Alfa Romeo. You've got another 15 kilos off your weight, but that still doesn't quite seem to be enough to have reined in the BMWs here.
And the BMWs, of course, they've got success ballast on top of that, so there's another 35 kilos for those guys on top of the championship, i.e. Prio, Muller and Farfus.
And they're still carving up the order.
And Farfus is still there, he's in 5th place. He's still hanging on there and scoring good points, so at the end of this race, Farfus will be leading the World Championship.
Yeah, all things considered, yes, not a bad job. James Thompson ramping it over the curbs there into the Audi S's. He's really defending hard from Tom Coronel. Coronel with a bit between his teeth, and Jörg Müller up the exhaust pipe. It's a fearsome combination, isn't it? Pressure from behind from Müller as we ride with Müller. You can see how much closer he's been to Coronel over the last couple of laps. At the top of the picture, there is Colciago with the white bonnet. He is in 6th position, but he's about a 2-second gap now behind Augusto Farfus as Genet looks to the inside, too late. Colciago had to give him room there. Don't forget, Colciago, Independence Trophy, doesn't have to worry about overall positions, but Genet left it too late. He only survived because Colciago gave him room there.
But Colciago does worry about overall positions. He wants to show, to see it to the rest of the manufacturers, he's a fantastic driver. He wants to be a works driver. He used to be, he's currently independent, he wants to be a works driver again. He will push his way around. He is a very, very hard driver. I know, I've come up against it before. He will end up, he has so many incidents with other people, but in that little melee there, Genet suffered a little bit trying to get past Colciago, and that's allowed Rob Huff to really be on his tail, really give him a hard time. So not only is he looking to see what's ahead of him, but he's looking at his mirror all the time now to see what Rob Huff is doing. So he's making life difficult for himself, Genet there.
Yeah, he certainly is. Huff having a little look. Here comes Prio for 8th place from Rob Huff, who holds it at the moment. So Huff having a look at Genet, as Genet made a mistake trying to get by Colciago. Now Huff makes a mistake trying to show his nose to Genet. Prio is right there too is Tarquini. I say everywhere you look there is a good battle going on, and this is one of the best. Colciago is 6th, 6, 7, 8, 9th, 10th you've got there, all in one little queue, and the first guy that blinks loses out. Coronel in trouble. Why? Inside Thompson, Contacto, and that is that's Coronel spun round. That's not Tarzan. I'm not quite sure exactly where that was, but that looks like Coronel may well be out of this race then. He was going very slowly. That might have just been the cameras picking up, recovering from the spin, but 1, 2, 3, Menu, lest we forget, Larini, Rangoni, then Montero and Farfus, then this one, all as one, Colciago, Genet, Huff, Prio and Tarquini. Huff still has 8th and the final point.
And that's where he'll want to be, because that was the target for Chevrolet when I spoke to them this morning. They said if they can get Huff up 1 place, he started 9th on the grid, if he can get up 1 place to 8th and finish in 8th, that means he starts on pole position for race 2. 2 pole positions in 1 weekend, just a fantastic start for Chevrolet. They need to try and capitalise. This is what was happening between these two guys, Thompson and Coronel fighting, and rear suspension broken. That's why it was going slowly.
I think that was in fact into the Audi S's, and I think Tom Coronel just had too much of a go there. It looked like a really late challenge down the inside. He was going straight across the curbs. Whether Thompson was there or not, I don't think he would have made the corner. So well, lots and lots of pressure on Tom Coronel here, and particularly having qualified in 15th, really trying to push himself up the grid as fast as he could. There you can see the gaps, 1.5 first to second, and Farfus now has the move on Montero that he wants. It's a long run here down to the braking area. Montero's got the inside line, Farfus has got a slow BMW, one of the Russian Bear cars in front, but he gets in front anyway, down into the Audi S's. That is one of the Russian Bear cars. That is probably Zelenov, who was 9 seconds, 9.777 seconds off the qualifying pace. He was allowed to start anyway, but Zelenov is not last on the track, so...
He is last on the track. The rest have actually stopped.
Right, okay.
The 2 behind him are both retired. Yeah, he's still 9 seconds off the pace, just looking at the time. That's exactly where he is. He's moved over to the side. He obviously has got some good rear view mirrors and keeping out of everybody's way. He really needs to do that. In fact, I would think he needs to go for driving lesson before he comes back to this championship.
Huge battles, and Huff inside. He just pushes Johnny Genet offline, gets alongside. He's got the place now. He's 7th. Genet is 8th. Prio is right there as well. I'll tell you what, Eduardo Freitas and the stewards are going to have a lot of tape to look at after race 1 and before race 2, and you can see tyre marks all over Prio's car. He's got some very bizarre sponsorship down on the left lower rear bumper behind the rear wheel, but I think that's first corner tyre marks, or somewhere tyre marks is picked up now. He's looking at Genet, Prio, the white BMW between the 2 sets, and Genet's all over the road.
He is a real sandwich in the middle there, as Andy, and he knows these Seats well. This is what he really races against most of the time, so he knows he needs to get past one of this car in front, Genet's car, in order to get that 8th place that he's looking for, and I'm pretty sure... Oh, he's touched him.
Well, that's Genet. Genet cannot hold a line. The tail of his car was sliding all over the place in the last 4 or 5 corners.
He did get a touch from Andy. That did push him wide. No
question, but he was offline and Prio had to go for the inside. Genet's car was all over the road.
So Tarquini's moved up as well ahead of Genet.
So Tarquini now 9th, and Coronel Well, talking it over, unfortunately, I think he probably would admit afterward. Oh, Huff! Straight off, and a huge slide from Priaulx as he tries to avoid the damage. Now, or was it as he took avoiding action, or is there something off there? Is there a little trail of fluid just across the corner there? Anyway, Rob Huff has gone from, well, what was 8th position, 7th position rather, and Priaulx has lost 8th as well. Who comes across the line? Tarquini is now behind Colciago in 7th. Priaulx is 8th. Genet is 9th. Jörg Muller is 10th. Felix Porchero is 11th altogether. Wowee, that was some change around.
Jörg Muller has come up through the field. He started, remember, way down in 15th, and he has just worked away at it. He hasn't been stunning, but he's just taken, as each person's fallen off or had problems. Thompson had a problem in front of him, so did Cornell, so is Huff, and he's just picked those places up. Now he has a chance to try and get in 8th place.
Rob Huff walks disconsolately away from his nosed-in Chevrolet Laschetti, and it looks as though he feels that's not drivable back to the pits to get it fixed, which means he might have trouble making the race 2 grid. Chevrolet still first and second, with Alain Menu and Nicola Larini leading this race. Luca Rangoni third, top independent. Thiago Montero fourth, with Augusto Farfus still behind him in 5th. Roberto Colciago 6th. At the head of this ferociously outbreaking queue, Tarquini, Priaulx, Genet and Jörg Muller are the 3 white and 1 yellow cars. The yellow car is Genet, Tarquini at the front of that, and safety cars out. And that's because Rob Huff's car is half on the racing line.
Now it's really going to make life difficult for the guys at the front. They've got themselves a space. The 2 Chevys have got themselves away from Rangoni and the rest of the team. But when this restart happens, they're all going to be nose to tail. 3 laps left. Now remember, the first 3 laps of the safety car do not count for this race.
First 2. They can add up to 2 extra laps, so we could go out to 14 laps. Certainly we will add 1 lap behind the safety car. And what would be the irony if somehow Chevrolet were denied the win in this race because of a crash Chevrolet? There's Eric Nev, the motorsport boss. Let's have a look. Absolutely car making no attempt to go around. I'm not sure from that camera angle that it was actually steering either.
And
it looks like
Priaulx nearly went right round.
Yeah.
Knew he'd lost 1 place, went straight across the circuit, block, and that car was straight into the back of Priaulx in actual fact, because he was trying to block him that much. But the 2 Chevys still have Luca Rangoni, the independent, splitting them away from the rest of the works cars, from Montero and from Farfus. This is a big help to Farfus. Farfus could do very well out of this restart.
Yeah, he really
starting in 5th place, he's got to try and get himself past Montero. Pretty sure he'll get himself past Rangoni. Somebody somewhere in the BMW outfit will be on the radio to Rangoni saying, you know, please let us past, otherwise your spares become even more expensive.
I tell you what, safety car will be in at the end of this lap, so that's a very quick turnaround, and Ivan Muller's going to go out and try and sort out his car for race 2 setup. Safety car out here at Zandvoort. Safety car lights will go out, if they're going to, after the S's that they are fast approaching at the moment. And this is because of Rob Huff's damaged Chevrolet. Went off on the exit of the S's, in fact, but has now been towed quickly out of the way. The marshals here, very efficient, very experienced marshals in Zandvoort. In fact, I expect quite a lot of them have come across the channel from the UK as well. Not just a popular place for Brits to race, but also to marshal. So I expect them to go green this lap, which will make this a 13 lap race by my reckoning, or we're still up at the top of the track, in fact. So heading down towards the return loop. Dr. Mario Tyson taking a moment to relax in the Schnitzer BMW. In fact, that's not, is it? That's the...
It was Schnitzer's
It was the Schnitzer BMW team indeed. And before that you saw Mark Busfield on the Chevrolet pit wall. So Chevrolet first and second as they were on the grid. In fact, Rangoni and Montero third and fourth, from 4th and 5th on the grid. The loser from the top 5 has been Farfus, who started 3rd and is now only 5th. How do you explain that? That's not a sentence you'll hear that often, is it? Cosiago 6th place, the white bonnet on the black Seat Italia car. Then Tarquini, Prio, Junet, Jörg Muller, Felix Portero, James Thompson will be right behind them again, now damaged. Zanardi will close up. Pierre-Yves Courtals, who is looking for 3rd in the Independence Trophy, behind 2nd placed Cosiago and leader Rangoni.
What I can't understand is why the guys in front are not really keeping their tyres warm. I'd have thought a little bit more weaving. They've been past where the car went off. They're off already.
They are off. The lights on the safety car was off, and Alain Menu is now charging to the green flag to try and give himself as much of a head of steam out of the final corner before he gives away a tow to the 21 cars behind him. David, you said yourself so many times that weaving does not warm the tyres as well as accelerating and braking hard, and that's possibly why Menu was not weaving.
That's right, that's what actually does make a difference. The actual braking and accelerating will put much more heat into the tyres than weaving will. But there's so few drivers actually realise that when you watch them, they tend to weave around a lot. Certainly Montero, we're watching him with the Seat here. He was certainly weaving around to get heat into his tyres. But we've still got 1, 2, Rangoni 3rd, Montero, Farfus, Colgiago, Tarquini.
No changes in fact from the restart at all.
The restart's gone very smoothly indeed. Nobody off at the first corner. That was a good restart from that point of view. Safely around for everyone.
A lot of experience from Alain Menu, racing in the British Touring Car Championship and racing in DTM particularly, you know, control the field, and he did. He bunched them all up so they were all nose to tail, and then he floored it. I mean, caught you by surprise how early he went. Probably caught every single man jack of them by surprise how early he went. It was his choice, and he made, I think, the perfect call there to go nice and early, the safety car out of his way, and he had the whole field bunched off the cam, off the throttle, and away he went. Now Montero, as you suspected, is the man under pressure, but he has been all race. He's got to last 2 laps after this, and Farfus at the moment showing no sign of getting by. It's going to have to be given away by Montero.
And Prio now still sitting in the 8th place. He'd be quite happy with 8th place, to be perfectly honest, because he has the Seat behind him, and I think he won't worry as much about that Seat as he would if the car behind that, Jörg Muller, was behind him. I think if Jörg was behind him, he would be a little more worried and would have a much more of a tension of, let me get another car between myself and Jörg. But while he's in 8th and Jörg is in 10th, he'll be happy with that, because that means he would start on the front for the next race and Jörg would be still starting off 10th on the grid. Putting a nice position between him, and see Jörg there looking to try and get down the inside of Jordi Genet, but not going to happen down there. You really need to have a down the inside line to try and protect that corner. Major overtaking place. Still a bit of a queue behind Colgiago there, that black and white Seat that's in 6th place. The highest of the second highest of Independence. Highest one, of course, I keep forgetting because he's in overall 3rd position. Is Rangoni, who's had a really fantastic weekend. Hasn't been fantastic in practice and such like, but in qualifying he was right there. He qualified in 4th place overall in qualifying, but he's running now in 3rd. He got hold of Farfus, got past him. He lost a couple of places, and this is Farfus still fighting with the front-wheel drive Seat Montero to try and get a place back, but still in 5th place, ahead of the other 2 guys that were in the championship lead along with him, so he will take the championship lead at the end of this race. Good point scoring is what you need to try and win the World Touring Car Championship, and Farfus is doing that with the heaviest car out there. He is on 1160 kilos as a total weight for his car, so from that point of view he's the heaviest guy out there. But look at this battle behind. Is he going to go down inside Colgiago?
Well,
no, not quite.
No, I think that was Tarquini closing the door nice and early on Prio, who was also shaping up. And my worry is Jordi Genet, because his car was all over the place. How much will a slow lap behind the safety car have allowed overheated tyres to cool down a little bit and maybe regroup? Not enough to make a difference?
I think probably not enough to make a difference, to be honest. But these guys are pushing hard. Zanardi a little bit further back. We haven't seen much of him. He's down to 13th, right behind James Thompson. But here you can see how close they are. Yes, we've had a safety car, so but they're all there, one after the other. A little bit of a gap between Farfus and this car here, Colgiago, but big queue in behind it. Nobody wanted to make a mistake. Yeah. The guys that will push are the guys that are 9th and 10th, because they've got a lot to gain. Everybody else needs to finish in the top 8. Finishing the top 8 gets you a really good position, the reverse grid round for the second race. Those guys looking after their cars, no damage, won't bump into the guy in front, want to keep the guy off their back bumper as well. The guys in 9th and 10th are desperate to take those places away. That's where the real battle is.
Zanardi all over the back of Jimmy Thompson, and the lap times are dropping, or in fact they're not, they're climbing. They're now all in the 1:49.7, 8, 9 and into the 1:50s. Nobody going as quickly as they were in the earliest couple of laps in fact. So as the fuel load has lightened, unfortunately tyre wear has more than taken the edge off that. But
in that last lap, third guy, the independent, was actually the quickest guy out there on this, and now they're on to the very last lap. Oh, looking down the inside.
He's going to have a last lap look, isn't he? No question. That was out of turn 8, 9, coming down the hill towards the Audi S's, and Farfus is not quite close enough. Menu, Larini, Rangoni, 1, 2, 3. Then Montero and Farfus, Colciago, Tarquini, Prio, Jörg Muller looking at Jordi Jannet to try and get 9th, but it's not enough to get him onto the front of the grid, so he will start from row 5 of the grid no matter what happens. And coming into the final couple of corners, Menu leads by 3/4 of a second from Larini. Alain Menu is going to win for Chevrolet, and history for the American mark. Chevrolet first and second, Luca Rangoni on the podium, the top independent, and congratulations to all from Eric Neve, the head of the Chevrolet Motorsport crew there, as they claim their first 1-2 on the grid and convert it to their first 1-2 in a race. That's a superb effort and great restarting by Alain Menu. Managed to keep them clear of the battle for third place. Thiago Montero in fourth, with Augusto Farfus, the best of the championship trio who led coming here, gets 4 points for fifth. Roberto Colciago 6 ahead of Tarquini and Prio, who'll be on row 1 of the reverse grid for race 2 later on this afternoon. So Prio gets a point, Farfus gets 4, Jörg Muller gets none. That's how our lead trio are split up. So it's going to be very interesting. Tarquini, of course, was 4th in the championship. He had 9 points. He will get 2, so that'll still keep him chasing the lead group. But the big story this afternoon, has been Chevrolet's first ever World Touring Car 1-2. Delight Chez Chevrolet as Swiss Alain Menu wins his first race of the season. There's Eric Neve, the motorsport boss, ready to congratulate him. And of course, nice little link. He won their first World Touring Car race on the 23rd of May last year at Brands Hatch in the rain. Race 2 in that wet British race weekend. He started from 8th and just ran away from the opposition, didn't he, after the safety car incident. And this is historic though, 1-2 with Nicola Larini in second place. Two of the most experienced drivers in the field as well, David Leslie. Menu, multiple touring car champion, and Nicola Larini, of course, with several seasons in Formula 1 as well among his starry years and his CV. But a great effort from those guys. The only disappointment, I suppose, is that Rob Huff's car crashed out just after the halfway mark. Well, our camera is right down there. Let's see if we can grab a quick word with Alain Menu as the celebratory backslapping continues.
Hello, Alain Menu. Alain Menu, first pole and first win. How do you feel?
Yeah, again, it's fantastic. It's exactly what I was hoping for, but I wasn't sure how the race would go with the tires, and they did go off. So, but I was a bit careful the first few laps. Try to be kind with the tires, and it did work. Yeah? When the safety car came out, I thought I could do without it because I was well in control. But the restart was good, and it's great for Chevrolet and RML. They did a great job. They really deserve it.
Thank you very much.
RML, of course, Ray Malloch's team, also racing in the Le Mans Series this weekend, but another red letter day for them, and they are the engineering side of this operation. There's all the boys from Northamptonshire who have come down with the cars, and this 2007 development of the car, which is the first time it's hit the racetrack, David, it's dominated in terms of pace all the way through practice, took a comfortable 1-2 on the grid, that's very nice, and then a 1-2 in the race. It really looks like they have hit the sweet spot of this car straight away.
They've certainly got it to work. A lot of work over the winter to get the thing running properly. Lots of development work by the boys, testing at the official tests and at other tests as well to make sure they get the best out of the car, and they've certainly arrived here, and that has has worked for them, and they are ahead of all the rest. You've got 2 Chevrolets, a BMW, a Seat, a BMW, 2 Seats, a BMW, a Seat, 3 BMWs, and so it goes on. And the Alfa Romeo much further down. James Thompson, having had that coming together with Tom Coronel, ended up down in 13th position, the first of the Alfa Romeos. So yes, Chevrolet very happy indeed. They would have had another car up there, but unfortunately, for whatever reason, Rob Hub went off. It looked as though something happened. It went straight on. It didn't even seem to attempt to go around the corner. So I've got no idea why it went straight on. So it looked as though something broke or there was a problem. To be
I wonder if he had a little touch with somebody early in the race, and maybe we saw it with Ivan Muller's car, we saw it with Tom Coronel's car. Suspension and steering arms are only designed to work with a sort of downward weight motion on them, not sideways, so maybe that's a legacy of an early touch. But looking at our results, you know, it almost looks like you're sort of looking at 15th down from last year. Menu, Larini, Rangoni in the Pro Team Independent BMW, Montero, all right, he wasn't there last year, Farfus, Colciago, a second independent in the top 6. Top factory Seat driver of the Spanish team is Tarquini in 7th, Genet in 9th, and Ivan Muller, as we saw, retired with broken suspension, although they have got it fixed, so that's good news for him, but he'll be starting way back in the 20s on the race 2 grid, because we had 24 finishers here, even if Zelenov was a lap behind. Tom Coronel also shown as a finisher, so the GR Asia team have worked very hard to get his rear suspension sorted out. We'll be back with the podium in just a moment. Chevrolet top 2 positions on the podium, and the RML crew applauding warmly. Tall figure there in the dark shades of Ray Mallock, and he is the man who has pulled together this Chevrolet factory operation. David Leslie, it's the second race weekend of their 3rd season, and they had really hoped to push from winning the occasional race last year and getting some podiums to be consistent front runners and maybe even have a shot at the title. And maybe we're talking this up a little quickly as we see Luca Rangoni, 3rd place there, top independent on the right. Larini and Menu, 2nd and 1st, is certainly showing that they have got championship challenging potential.
And this will help them tremendously. I mean, that's a good 10 points for Alain Menu and 8 points for Nicola Larini. They didn't score when they were in Brazil. But Rob Huff did score. He scored 4 points in the first race, and unfortunately got taken out first corner in the second race. And so all 3 drivers now scoring in the first couple of meetings.
And Chevrolet have already scored double the points here to the entire Brazilian race weekend. They scored 9 points in total in Brazil. They've got 18 here for 1st and 2nd. We've still got race 2 to go. So they could end up pushing themselves quite a long way up towards the battle between BMW and Seat, which is the lead of the manufacturer's trophy. And of course, that is also something that the Chevrolet boys are looking at. Seat scoring with Montero in 4th, and Colciago, I guess, scores in 6th, even though he is an independent. But BMW 2nd and 5th, also scoring well, with Rangoni there, the top independent, and with Augusto Farfus. But 1st and 2nd for Chevrolet, it's a real red letter day. And when they get away from here and have thought a little bit longer about what to do in race 2, Ray will probably phone Valencia and find out that his sports car is currently doing very well in the Le Mans Series race there as well. And of course, Valencia has all sorts of echoes, because that is our next port of call after we finish the Zandvoort weekend. So another couple of weeks. Now that we're into Europe, there's no 6 and 7 week passages between the tracks, so we will be getting lots more World Touring Car action, and Valencia might throw up a whole host of new names to conjure with. But before we even get into race 2, it's certainly a day to mark down for Chevrolet. All right, these guys will start 8th and 7th on the grid, but 1st and 2nd on the podium, you'd take that, wouldn't you, and live with the reverse grid.
That's spot on. You're starting in the top 8 still. You should have got an opportunity to score points, and that's what wins a championship. We've seen that last year with Andy Priaulx. One good finish, i.e. 1st and 2nd, second finish, usually around about 8th. So he was scoring a maximum and a minimum at every race meeting, and that's the way he went through the season, and that's how we ended up winning the championship. These guys know that. They've seen it last year, and you know, it's not going to be a problem for them, believe me. They will quite happily take that 8th place start on the grid and work our way from there. And there you see the mechanics grabbed the champagne and sprayed there is Eric Neve from Chevrolet. The drivers decided we can't drink it yet because we're racing again this afternoon, so we'll just cover the team boss in it. It's much easier. And team boss very happy. He won't mind in the least what happens to him as long as he can score more points this afternoon. He'll be as happy as Larry.
Absolutely. You take a bath in cold baked beans for a 1-2 result, wouldn't you, every day of the week? So delighted Chevrolet. Augusto Farfus 5th place, leads the standings by 3 from Prio, 4 from Muller, Tarquini 9. But look at Menu and Larini as a result of that. They're 5th and 6th in the championship. Menu 1 win away from the championship lead. And I can't imagine I've said that too many times over the last couple of seasons. Luca Rangoni, the top independent driver, ahead of all but one Seat. That's just a remarkable achievement by him.
You had the pole position today, and last year you won in Brands Hatch, and today you had the pole position and you won. How does it feel today?
Obviously it feels great. I mean, it's an amazing achievement from everybody at RML and Chevrolet. They've worked so hard all winter, and last year, okay, I won at Brands Hatch, but this time we were on pole position, so the car has now got the pace. I think this track is good for us. So it might be different in different tracks, but it's a great feeling, and I'm so happy for them. You know, they really deserve it.
And what do you think will the second race bring?
Well, now we'll be starting from 8th place, so I'm not sure. You know, it's hard. I think we saw in that first race it's hard to overtake, and the tires do go off near the end of the race. So I'm not too sure, but I'll do the best I can. But you know, what matters is that win. So what comes next is just a bonus.
Thank you very much.
Cheers. Thank you.
Exactly as you said, Andy Prio treated last year. David, get a win, and then whatever points you can take as a result. His big worry, Menu, of course, is that a row behind him will be Jordi Genet, but also Jörg Muller's BMW, and it's a standing start. In fact, there are 3 BMWs behind Menu after the first race.
Nicola Larini, we have 2 Chevrolet in the first and the second position, so how was it possible?
Yeah, great day today for Chevrolet, for our teams, for ourselves as well. We have done a great job, as Alan said, in the winter time. This is the result. So now we are looking forward, really confident.
Thank you very much.
Well, he's been in this European and World Touring Car frame a long while, hasn't he? A lot of years with the Alfa Romeo team, and now right at the front with Chevrolet as well. Nicola Larini obviously delighted with their day's work.
Luca Rangoni, you had the podium today, so really great. How do you feel?
So, fantastic race, very good. His car is perfect. Thank you very much, team, equipe. Thank you very much, BMW.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Well, Luca Rangoni, 4th on the grid, 3rd in the race. Just flawless drive, kept his nose clean into the first corner, picked up a place as well. Couldn't challenge the Chevrolets, but actually, do you know what? I'm not particularly sure that he'll be too worried about that. Don't forget, that is only the first of our 2 races this weekend. So join us again later on this afternoon for round 4 of the FIA World Touring Car Championship, live here on Eurosport from Zandvoort. Till then, from David Leslie, from me, Martin Haven, it's goodbye for now.